Do you want to describe your ethnic background so they understand?
So my parents came, my grandfather came from Cuba back right after the revolution, and they're definitely not white. I'm African and Cuban descent from both. Actually, some of my ancestors are indigenous to Cuba, and I don't think I have any white at all. I've never done one of those DNA tests. I've never wanted to spend money on it. I don't care, because to me, I've never cared about somebody's race or religion. It's not a thing for me. And the same thing for the Proud Boys. We don't, like, when you join a chapter or you try to join a chapter, in the application process, we don't ask those questions. We don't ask you, oh, well, what's your religion? Like, it has like those little cards that show you how dark your skin is to see where you check off. We don't have that.
Those are real?
No, I don't know. I saw that in like
That's
one of those
Family Guy
meme.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let me ask you, man. What are the Proud Boys?
It started as a joke on Gavin's show, and
Gavin McInnes,
Gavin McInnes' show.
founder of Vice, co-founder of Vice.
Co-founder of Vice, which I give him crap for that all the time. But we started as a joke on Gavin's show. It wasn't supposed to go past the first meeting that they had. He was trying to get his intern laid, and he invited everybody to the bar on a Friday night, and they came out, and it wasn't supposed to, like, he made up the name from an Aladdin musical, and he did the tenets and the credo, the degrees of membership, all right there a cappella, like straight. What are your tenets? And these are the 10 tenets of being a Proud Boy. And what are the degrees? And he went through them. And it was made right there on the spot. And it started blowing up. And it really started to blow up after the J20 riots, the Inauguration Day riots, because we dared to fight back. You know, conservatives weren't fighting back. Antifa was basically burning down the city on J20. They were beating up Trump protesters throughout the entire election. We saw what happened in Berkeley, and there wasn't like conservatives that were fighting back. And it wasn't like they claim us to be like some type of security force. So something that they always say is like, oh, you guys we're doing security for Roger Stone. We never get hired to do security for anybody. We just went to go see Stone at his events, and we just happened to be there. We've never really provided security for anything. So if you ask what the Proud Boys are, in just like the simplest terms, we're a drinking club with a patriot problem is all we are. We don't take ourselves seriously. Actually, outside of media coverage, we're not a boring crew, but we're a boring story. Like, if you really knew who we were on the inside, it's a boring story. It's like, it's not newsworthy at all. So we've become these monsters. And last week, we became public enemy number one for Democrats because they refused to denounce Antifa, and they had a problem. They had a problem in the polls. They knew they weren't polling right because of that. And they needed to point a finger. They needed to find somebody. And Biden could have picked so many other groups when they were talking about white supremacy, which is an ideology, or militias, which are actual groups. You could name those. But they decided he made a critical mistake in mentioning the Proud Boys when talking about militias. We're not a militia. You know, we don't train white supremacy. We're not white supremacists. My chapter consists of 90% of the membership in my personal chapter are all Cubans. The minority is white.
When Gavin was like founding it, he was saying stuff like, he was joking, but he was saying like, I'm advocating
Was
violence.
he joking?
I think
that's
so.
Not, I don't think that's
right. There's
we're
a
not gonna
big
determine
what
that.
if, but he says that he was joking and like saying, I want violence. Go get him. And then like some people that identified as Proud Boys like attacked someone, and that's where the whole Proud Boys are a violent organization came from.
Mm-hmm. I'd ask you for the context of when we attack somebody on that specific premise.
We just had the DC riot squad. These are the Daily Caller's reporters who go on the ground and go to riots, and they said they filmed in where was that? Was that Portland, or was
it was in Portland that they saw Proud Boys? Yeah.
Yeah, and they said they saw a couple Proud Boys really just laying into a guy, like brutally beating him, and I said, "Are you sure?" Because I know Patriot Prayer is up in the. He said, "Nope, these are Proud Boys." And so these are the riot crew guys. These are the people who are on the ground covering it. They work for the Caller. They're not left. This Daily Caller is founded by Tucker Carlson. And they said they saw Proud Boys stomping some guy out.
Well, I haven't heard about that story in Portland, but yes, we have gotten into scuffles, many per se, and we're not afraid to defend ourselves.
But don't you? Going back to the first point I was making, we opened the show.
Yes.
Don't you think there's a problem if you guys go to Portland, and then it's an Antifa hotbed? I understand. You in the United States, you have a right to march where you want to march, but you're jumping into the fray. Then Antifa's there, all hot and agitated and crazy. Then they come to these events, they attack you, and then you get into fights.
I think I agreed with you 100% when you did the video on our September 26th rally. I agreed with you 100%. It would be stupid for us to go into downtown Portland because that would mean that we're actually looking for problems. If we went into, let's say, Chapman Park or Terry Shrunk Plaza, yes, I'd tell you that we're definitely looking for it. But that instance, we'll talk about this specific instance, but I took it to northern Portland. I put the event on purpose. I put it in the middle of this park that has 10-foot fences all around. It's a maze. It's impossible to get there. I communicated with PD. I communicated with FBI. They called it a state of emergency because we were going. So there was a bigger police presence. We actually had a really good event, a really safe event, and we were away from Antifa. And the only reason that Antifa went to, there was a park that was close by called Flamingo Park, I think, or Peninsula Park. The only reason that they went there is because I said in a private message that I leaked, I said that we're going to Peninsula Park. So the reason why they were there
to confront you.
They were there to confront me, but I knew that it was 3.5 miles away, and I knew they wouldn't have time from beginning of this event to the end of the event. You don't have to, and a lot of people under your feed said, don't interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And I'm 100% for that. But
no, go ahead.
But I decided to go over there to expose. I decided to go over there, and I decided to dare, right, to go over there. And I felt the brunt of it. I felt people were like turning on us and like, why are you going over there? And the reason why we're going over there, because the only reason why cops did their job that week, and they're going to do their job till the end of the year, was because we showed up. They banned CS gas. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
Because it was inhumane.
Tear gas, basically.
Tear gas. It was inhumane to use that against protesters. But the moment that we say that we're going to show up, they lift the tear gas ban. And so tear gas is bad for humans, but it's not bad for conservatives. So they lifted that ban on Friday, and I wasn't afraid of it. I was like, okay, cool. You lifted the tear gas ban. You're not going to use it on us. We're going to be peaceful, and we're far away from whatever action. And as a matter of fact, don't quote me on this. I'll look up the statistics after this, but I think they had the most single arrests that weekend than they had in the previous 4 months. It was like 50-something arrests.
Of Antifa?
Antifa, yes. And I categorize that as a win.
But their DA isn't prosecuting many of these people. They're just being cut loose.
Well, the cool part about it is that some of those arrests were made by deputized
the feds,
federal officers, and they were supposed to. I guess the word is undeputize them the day after, and the U.S. Marshals actually refused that. So 50 Portland Police Bureau cops are going to be federally deputized by the U.S. Marshals until the end of the year.
And that means anybody they arrest could face federal charges.
Yes.
So let's go back. So to better understand, we know the Proud Boys was a joke. Gavin he doesn't know when to stop. I'll say that. And so he made a joke, and then he kept going with it. He kept pushing on it. He's had numerous videos where he's straight up called for violence. He was at a rally in D.C. where I had some reporters on the ground covering it. And I can't remember what the rally was, but it wasn't that long ago, and Gavin was calling for violence. So I know that Gavin stepped down from the Proud Boys, but that's your founding. This is a guy who's got numerous videos. Some of them are taken out of context. There was one video, I think, where he was talking about, putting a choke chain on a dog, and it was taken out of context to make it seem like he was saying to attack people, but he's definitely called for violence. So I mean, this is I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. The only reason he stepped down was because he was trying to take heat off of some Proud Boy members who were facing prison time.
Yes. He stepped down. So to touch on the first subject, he stepped down because he needed to take heat off of this crooked system that was prosecuting our guys. So Gavin threw a comedy show at the Metropolitan Republican Club, and that was on a Saturday. And then Friday, the whole place was vandalized. They broke the windows. They spray painted the entire building. They put glue on the locks, and they put a threatening message on the front door. If you have Gavin here, you'll see what's going to happen to you. And they went through with it. So they went through with the night, and my guys were walking back to their car, and they were confronted by Antifa. They were followed and stalked by Antifa. They were confronted. They threw a glass bottle of urine at them, and then my guys fought back. Right? And the cops saw this whole thing. The cops saw this brawl. So the cops went, they broke up the brawl, and they asked my guys, hey, are you guys need any medical attention? Are you guys okay? My guy's like, all right, we're cool. And when he asked Antifa, the guy said, F off pigs, was his, what he said to the cops. And nothing happened. That's it. But something was going to happen because it was a 2018 election, and Mobs Not Jobs, I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
Jobs Not Mobs was trending, and they needed a boogeyman. So they went ahead, and the governor of New York, Governor Cuomo, instructed the AG to press charges on the white supremacist Proud Boys. Didn't say anything about Antifa. The AG prosecuted. They turned themselves in. And they knew they didn't do anything wrong. So what do you do when you know that you didn't do anything wrong? You take it to trial. And they took it to trial. And this is the first time, maybe I'm blind to the system, but this is the first time I ever see that they did not get to face their accuser. There was no victims. And it's not like the DA didn't present victims. The DA didn't even know who these guys were. The police didn't know. The police took the stand and was very unbiased and told the story. And guess who was the people that took the stand against the Proud Boys? Sandy Bauckham, which is a journal. I don't even want to say journalist, but somebody that videotaped the whole thing. And
advocacy journalism.
Yeah,
is what it's
advocacy.
referred to.
So that's the people that would put on the stand. So they got, obviously, they got proven guilty by a jury of their peers. But by a crooked system that probably had already tainted it with all these tweets. I think it should have been done in private. The jury should have been sequestered, but that didn't happen. It was an unfair trial. I mean, how many fights happened in New York?
So the first thing I'll say is
4 years.
In
4 years.
What's 4 years?
4 years in prison.
They're doing 4 years in
God.
prison
Yeah.
for this.
Now that definitely seems excessive. They called it gang violence.
Yes.
So the first thing is in reference to there being no victim. It's the state that is pressing charges as the people. The victim was the people. There's video footage of Proud Boys kicking a guy on the ground in the fetal position over and over again. Mm-hmm. So when the story first came out, the initial reaction we saw, because we saw surveillance footage, was Antifa throw a bottle, and then Proud Boys run up and start fighting, and then the Proud Boys won very quickly, but kept going as they were still on the ground. And that's where they say the charges actually stem from. But actually later on, more footage was released showing that before Antifa even threw the bottle, the Proud Boys were running at them from down the street, and then Antifa threw the bottle. So I actually covered this. After they stomped the guys on the ground, which is all on video, they kept live streaming. And one of the guys who was streaming was filming a couple Proud Boys laughing about how they were stomping a guy's head on the ground. And one guy was like jumping, going like, yeah, I was smashing him. Then when I captured, I downloaded that stream. The Proud Boy, when he found out that people were, I think the guy streaming wasn't a Proud Boy, quickly deleted it. So there's video of, the charges stem from, they didn't just win, so here's the argument I was told when I covered this. People said, just because someone's gone down doesn't mean the fight is over. And so they wanted to make sure that Antifa didn't get back up because they were a threat. But the Proud Boys ran at Antifa and then continued to stomp them and then bragged about it on a live stream afterwards.
So I'm not going to tell you that I know exactly the entire story on the video side or anything, but when you're basically stalked, right? Your homes get bricks thrown through the window, your tires get slashed, people are shot on the street. Like, when is enough? Like, when is it that we say enough? Protesters are protesters, right? They have a right, and I've always said this. I support Antifa's right to protest something that they don't see as right, right? But they're not coming to protest. They didn't come there with glass bottles of urine to have a nice time and to not invoke violence. And these guys are getting stalked on the way to their cars. Okay, so I'm going to defend them to the T. I don't think that some people understand how hard it is. Like, just being a PB, right? Just being a normal person that thinks that there's something wrong, and you don't go to any rallies, and one day you decide, hey, I'm going to go to a comedy show with Gavin, and then there's this giant protest outside, and they arrested 3 Antifa members. I think they beat up like a journalist and stole his camera equipment.
It was actually an attendee. So
Yeah.
I was going to get to that too. One of the attendees of the club was a block away from where that event we were talking about took place. Antifa beat and robbed him. And so there were 2 major incidents that occurred that night. One where I described the Proud Boys run up, fight the Antifa, win, stream it. A block away, a guy leaving the event with Gavin was attacked by Antifa. They stole his backpack and fled. I think the police may have recovered the backpack. I'm not entirely sure. But from there is something really obvious to be pointed out. The left-wing activists, they're organized. They have advice from lawyers, and they know what they're doing. You guys don't seem to understand how the system actually works. So my understanding of the story when I was covering at the time, after the police came and broke up the fight, I believe you're correct that they ultimately didn't do much, but then came back later with charges. The Proud Boys cooperated entirely with the police, gave them their information, told them what was up. Antifa said F you and ran off.
Yep.
So my understanding is the DA said if Antifa was caught at the time and we knew who they were, they would face the same charges, but they got away. The Proud Boys get to go to jail.
Do you know what happened to those people that stole the book bag?
No, what happened? I don't.
The DA released them.
The guy who stole the book bag.
Yes.
Really?
They let them go. Sometimes bravery is stupid, right? So sometimes being prideful is stupid. Sometimes going to Portland is stupid, right? But like, we don't want to live in fear. You know, these guys are facing the consequences, and you should see the letters that they send out. They're as bad as the situation that they are in. They're very like, they love this, right? They love this country. They love what it stands for, and they love fighting for it. And as you said, yes, maybe things could have worked out differently. Maybe we shouldn't have talked to the cops. Maybe we should have just kept our mouths shut. But would have that been the right thing to do? It's not the smartest thing to do.
I think, my personal opinion, I understand what you're saying about being stalked. I've seen the videos. I've been covering this for a long time. I remember some of the first events where I saw Proud Boys in person, confused what they were doing at these rallies because it was this weird, Gavin joke. But I think what you guys need to realize is you have scrutiny. You're named by Joe Biden. And that means you're walking on the razor's edge. If Antifa is surrounding your event and vandalizing it and smashing it up, you need to let the police take care of it. And if the police won't, we have a serious problem, but that needs to be the issue that's brought up. So even Donald Trump has said the same thing. Law enforcement needs to handle it. I understand, especially in Portland. The district attorneys in Portland, Chicago, Fort Worth, and New York have been releasing all of these rioters. Joe Biden's campaign solicited donations to bail them out, and Kamala Harris did personally. So yeah, it seems like a very serious issue. What I see, however, is the American people who are sick and tired of the riots, the people I know in the Chicagoland area who are sick and tired of the riots, and then roll their eyes in annoyance when they hear Proud Boys are coming around, and then it's essentially just going to cause more fighting. Or not that you guys are on par with what Antifa and Black Lives Matter are doing in rioting, but that they're sick of all of it and they want the police to just shut it down. So wouldn't it be better if you guys just didn't get into fights?
It would be I don't think it would be better if you just let cops do their jobs, because cops aren't doing their jobs. They're not. It's not that they don't want to. It's that they're not allowed to. So what did it take in Portland? It took two guys with an idea and a phone call to show up in Portland for them to finally do their job, right?
Well,
there's different ways that we can go about it. It doesn't mean that we got to fight every time that we go somewhere, because we've grown. I think we've grown a lot smarter. We've understand exactly what they're going to do before they're going to do it. And we show up in Portland. We're far as hell from everything. And they finally get arrested. They finally get to use their CS gas. They were happy. They were happy that they got these tools that were necessary to do their job.
But
so if we let police officers, and we say, oh, well, we're going to leave everything to the police officers. Well, we've left everything to the police officers in these cities, and they continue to burn.
But
Kenosha happened. I'm sorry. Kenosha happened because of Portland. DC happened because of Portland. Chicago's happening. New York. I could keep going.
Right.
Atlanta, Austin. Like, Portland is setting an example for this, and these guys think that they can get away with it. I'm not saying that we're some vigilantes that are going to fix everything. And we let the police do their job when we went to Portland. We've let the police do their job every time that I've been to Portland. The two last times that I've been to Portland, we've let the cops do their job. We just show up.
So first, it was good to see there was no violence, and the way you handled going to Portland, I understand, makes sense.
Yes.
You got a state of emergency declared, the police powers were restored, but the police have been making these arrests. The first deputization came from Oregon State Police, because every time they arrest these Black Lives Matter or Antifa rioters, it's the district attorney who keeps releasing them. The state police actually issued a statement saying, what's the point of, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, what's the point of doing this if everyone we arrest is cut loose immediately and come right back out and riot? So I understand what you're saying. The police were empowered a little bit more. There was a deputization of local police, which will retain. And there actually is a breaking story right now that the DA, I believe his name is Mike Schmidt in Portland, cut loose an Antifa rioter, and the feds immediately came in and issued federal charges.
Good.
There was a statement made by, so that is one, I guess there's pros and there's cons to that result. You know, that the increasing authority of the federal government is worrying, in my opinion.
I agree.
If local district attorneys aren't stopping these people, and we have now 130 plus days of rioting, yeah, it becomes really, really difficult to figure out how to solve this problem. So I guess there was, in terms of a law enforcement result, you got one, there was no violence. So I can respect that I was wrong about they're going to, you know, I said there's going to be violence. People are going to, I'm worried about it. And it didn't turn out that way. So,
well, you were right. You were right in your video.
Well, what I mean to say is,
yes.
I believe my criticism was correct.
Yes.
Yeah, the potential for violence is great, but I was wrong in that I absolutely thought there was going to be clashes and violence. We've seen the videos, and I think the American people are tired, and I fully understand what you're saying. And there really is a serious challenge in that we have all of these cities where rioting has kept popping up, notably in the Pacific Northwest, but it's happened in New York, and we just had LA Lakers riots, I guess, in LA, which was absurd. In Portland, they just tore down a statue of Abraham Lincoln. Now, the Teddy Roosevelt one, it was Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay, I understand they're mad about both of these individuals, but it doesn't seem like there's a cohesive group. It seems like you have emboldened groups, far left extremists who have been rioting now for several months, of varying ideologies, from Antifa to Indigenous rights to Black Lives Matter. You've got the Indigenous activists tearing down Abraham Lincoln, and you'd think that would be something the Black Lives Matter people actually wouldn't want torn down. You've got some fringe leftists tearing down Frederick Douglass in Rochester, which is insane, and you think you wouldn't want torn down. But anyway, ultimately, I think, while I certainly believe, you know, Trump is correct when he says it's coming from the left. The way I described it before is, if 300 Proud Boys were marching, you know, in front of my house, I'd just be like, what are you doing? You know, like, why? I don't get it. If 300 Antifa were marching in my house, I'd be calling the police and saying, you need to get down here, because these are the people that put on masks, smash things. We recently saw in Denver, there was a security guard hired by a news outlet, 9 News, and he shot a Trump supporter. According to a reporter on scene, he came up behind her and approached a Trump supporter, police supporter, and made some kind of move towards him. The Trump supporter slapped him in apparently some kind of preemptive or defensive measure, knocking his hat off. He took 2 steps back, and then the guy was pulling his gun out as he was stepping back and shot him in the face as the dude was letting off some spray. We also saw what happened in Portland with Michael Reinl stalking some Trump supporters and then calling them out. We got a couple right here. Take it out here. Yeah. And then he shoots him twice in the chest. We're not seeing. So where are the like Trump supporting conservatives that are doing that kind of behavior, showing up to rallies put on by the left, attacking people, hospitalizing them? Like I mentioned, we do have the example of from the DC riot squad of, I believe it was Portland, where Proud Boys were beating somebody up. So there are problems here, but we tend to see, the way I describe it is, on the left, you have a wide spread of blunt force, whereas extremists associated with the right, whatever that really means, it's complicated terminology. You have extremist actions that are extremely elevated in terms of, mass shootings and things like that and bombings. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.